With us today is Richard Cuff. He's been with us before, and doubtless we'll have some more conversations in the future. But today, a little specifics. Richard has a plan, an idea he has for North Jacksonville in light of the redistricting melee that has gone on with the Jacksonville City Council in districts and placing folks in places where they, quite frankly, as we do this taping, don't even know what district they're voting in. And the elections are coming up for the city, the county of Duval, within the next 90 days or so, actually a little less than 90 days. Richard is president of CTI Marketing and founder of the Simba Business Alliance and CEO of Conceltel LLC. He's a graduate of Jacksonville University's Davis School of Business. He was born in Edison, Georgia, and raised in the Liberty City community of Miami, where he graduated from Miami Northwestern High School and Border College. He's also a military veteran in the Army. I won't hold that against him. He returned to his inner city neighborhood in Miami during the race riots of 1980. I won't hold that against him because I'm Air Force. Richard, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Fred. I really appreciate you making time for me.
All right, let's get right to it. You have some ideas and a specific idea about what you'd like to see happen in Jacksonville in terms of dividing not just the districts, the 14 council districts and 5 at-large districts that we have in the county, but you have an interesting idea that could affect consolidation, the very constitution that we all operate under. What's all about and what started this?
What started it was I was invited to be a part of the upcoming Think Bold Festival. We're going to be talk more about that. It's the first one to be held here in Jacksonville, and I was excited just by that idea about bringing together bold thinkers and then take bold ideas and say, what can we make happen, toward moving the needle in that bold direction? And I live here on Dunn Avenue. I've been in this Dunn Avenue area maybe for about 25 years solidly. And I know we moved back here, I think, in the maybe 20 years ago, and have been here ever since. So this is my home. And I've watched Dunn Avenue evolve over the years in much the same way I watched Jacksonville evolve, because I moved to Jacksonville in 1990, literally with everything I owned in the trunk of my cousin's car. And at that time, when you drove up from Miami, you could tell when you got to Jacksonville because there was like a Pepsi can or something, a big Pepsi can on I-95 where Pepsi Cola had a plant or something like that, right around Bowden Road or University. And then once you hit University Boulevard, you say, okay, drive another couple minutes and you'll get to Emerson. And that's when you know you're in Jacksonville. Bottom line is everything from Emerson all the way back to the Duval County line on the south was basically just cow pastures and sand dunes in 1990. Literally, the Danes Point Bridge ended at Fort Caroline Road. They had just built it. I think they had just finished it in 1989 when I got here. So bottom line is the south side of Jacksonville was non-existent. And then Mayor Delaney did the Better Jacksonville plan, and boom, overnight, all that infrastructure was built. And now we have a beltway all the way around the city. And then you look at Northside Jacksonville, and it looks exactly the same as it did in 1990. In fact, I use this as a measure. There are some maybe 29, 30 movie screens in the area of Northeast Florida that you can take your wife to go see a movie. Families can go out and have a good time. They finally put a movie theater up at the River City Marketplace, and that has closed and has been replaced now by a BJ's Wholesale. So literally, once you cross I-10 and the St. Johns River representing the north side, you would have to go all the way to Kingsland, Georgia, before you get to another movie theater. And that's what the north side looks like. And part of that, I believe, is because of consolidation. All of the wealth, put your money in our bag, Black people, and we'll all prosper together. And then you look 60 years later and you see where the prosperity has gone, obviously to the south side. So I started asking, and one of the things I noticed that, and I don't think most people catch this, is whenever we talk about county government and issues with the county, the Baldwin and Jacksonville Beach are always included in the conversation. And then, but yet they have their own mayor. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Well, when it came time for consolidation, in essence, the white folk in Baldwin and Jacksonville said, no, we don't want to consolidate, but we do want to be part of the county. And they're still part of the county. So they get the best of both worlds. And then I started saying, well, what would happen if we took this area in Northwest Jacksonville, north of the Trout River, and deconsolidated and started thinking of it as our own city? That began the process for me to say, well, and I've been doing this since about 2010. I really started thinking that way. And in 2015, I renamed the area the Blossom Ridge Business District and started calling it Blossom Ridge. And most of the people who know me and know how much of an advocate I am for the Dunn Avenue area, they call me the mayor of Blossom Ridge. So I've been the mayor of Blossom Ridge for about 10 years. And my mindset is, why can't we be our own separate community? If we were, we'd be a city of about 70,000 people. And about 62% Black, I think, is the makeup. We would be one of the most prosperous Black cities in the country. We'd have certainly the lowest crime rate. I think there were 3 murders in this city if Blossom Ridge were 3, all of last year. And there was a point where we spiked and there was like 12 at one point. And I think 11 of the 12 murders were at one hotel on Harts Road. And so they eventually closed the entire hotel down, and that solved our murder problem. So my point, Fred, is we've got all the makings of a city. Why don't we become our own city? So that's how I got to this point.
Well, now that's a lot to take in, and that's a monumental task that you set out on. Now it doesn't sound to me, at least boundary-wise, that what's the southern boundary? I'm assuming, give me the east and west boundaries and the southern boundary for Blossom Ridge that you're talking about. What are the proposed boundaries for this?
It's the perfect geographical boundary. If you were to take Trout River, when you come over Trout River, that would represent the south side. The southern border is the Trout River. And if you went along I-95 all the way up to 295, that would represent the eastern border. And then if you got to 295 and went all the way back around, back to the Trout River, 295, that would encompass the north and the west. So everything within that circle, that sort of corner of a circle, would be the core of the Blossom Ridge Business District and ultimately the city of Blossom Ridge. So I-95 on the east, I-295 on the west, the Trout River on the south, and the I-295 on the north. So it creates that nice little border. And Dunn Avenue would become the billion-dollar mile. It would become Black Wall Street. It would be everything from, you take Dunn Avenue and run from I-95 all the way across to 295, and you cut right through the middle of the city.
What kind of demographics are you looking at here? Now, granted, it is a fairly decent Black population there. I haven't taken a deep dive into the demographics and the population there, but what's the demographics look like if you're just if you're including those boundaries? What's the demographics and what would be the estimated population, obviously based on the last census?
Well, I think it puts us right around, like I said, about 62% Black and another 38% white. We are, as my daughter would say, solidly middle class. My daughter, when she was 11 years old, needed money for school, and my wife said, "We don't have it because we're poor." And my daughter says, "We are not poor." My wife says, "Yes, we are poor." My daughter says, "We are not poor. We are solidly middle class." And I laugh about that still, 15 years later. But that is the best way to describe this area. It's solidly middle class. So it doesn't fit the mold of a economic empowerment zone. So if you were to look at any of the maps around the city of Jacksonville, empowerment zone, opportunity zone, low income zone, high crime zone, any of the zones, we don't qualify for any of that. because we are solidly middle class. But then if you look at it from a standpoint of capital infusion, development, and all of that other stuff like the South Side and beaches and downtown and all that, we don't get any of that development. So we're like in that Goldilocks spot where we're doing well enough to not need help, but not well enough to attract the money that could come to this area. And I think that with a change in focus, we can begin to do that.
Now, if I read your boundaries correctly, that would also exclude the airport and River City Marketplace, which is one of the largest shopping centers we have in this city. It's growing by leaps and bounds itself, with hospitals, 2 hospital units out that way, and obviously, as you said, new commercial enterprises going in there. But your zone would exclude that, and you'd still be without a movie theater in that zone. What makes you think that you're going to be able to get any agreement on such an enterprise? Is there such a separation from the city of Jacksonville while being able to reap some benefits from the consolidated government?
First of all, because we're going to do it in stages. The first stage has already been done, and it's this conversation here. I mean, it literally took me 10 years to get this kind of a conversation, because now, as a visionary, the Bible says we see through a glass lit dimly, and I was looking through a glass lit dimly, but I could see that there was something there, and it took a good 10 years, and other people are beginning to see it as well. So phase 1 was just announcing the Blossom Ridge idea, and I did that in 2015, and we had a wonderful event at the Starbucks on Dunn Avenue during an event called Earth Hour, the last Saturday in March, where cities around the world turn off their lights for 1 hour and use that as an intention to bring attention to the environment. And I said, well, why not use that 1 hour to bring attention to our communities? And I've been doing that since 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. So we've done the first phase. The second phase is to get that area, the boundaries, recognized as just the Blossom Ridge Business District. And when it gets recognized as the Blossom Ridge Business District, that's when we bring in the studies. It's going to take millions of dollars of studies and surveys and a whole bunch of other stuff. Obviously, you don't just, this would be actually the equivalent of a Brexit. I call it the Blexit, right? The black exit. We would exit the consolidated city, but it would take the entire city voting on it, of course, to make it happen. But once we get this area, and the city council can do that right now by simply designating that area, the area that I mentioned, I-95, 295, and the Trout River, designating that officially as the Blossom Ridge Business District.
Have the city councilman for that district and the at-large councilman for that district, that particular zone, for the at-large council, have they been briefed on this? And what's been their feedback that you've gotten from them?
No, we are now at the point of doing it. And what really accelerated it, I mean, I had the issue that I had here was that Gaffney, District 7 split right down the middle. Dunn Avenue, everything to the north of Dunn Avenue was District 7. Everything on the south of Dunn Avenue was District 8. And that was one of the main problems that we had, is that it never got 100% of the focus from either one of the city council members. Nothing that Gaffney can't point to anything that he did in this area other than maybe assisting the school, but everything else there's a charter school that was built here that he had some hand in. But even that technically was in District 8 because it was on the south side of Dunn Avenue.
Now, this is going to have to be done by a petition first. I would assume, whether it's establishing a business district or its own government. How many signatures are you going to have to acquire to get this on the ballot? I just don't. I'll be honest with you. I just don't see how this is going to. You'd ever get this through the council. Get at least 10 votes on the council to get this accomplished. So you're going to have to, it looks to me, you'd have to do this by petition. Do you understand how many signatures
Oh,
you're going to have to get? They at least get this on a ballot?
absolutely. Well, first of all, we're a long ways away from a ballot initiative. There is an area near, what is that? A little bit southeast of Edward Waters College, running along Kings Road, what they call the Rail Yard District. The Rail Yard District,
Yes.
particularly gentrified North Side. But the moment white folk moved into the that area, that's the first thing they always do. They rename it. It's called the Emerald Trail in the Rail Yard District. There was no petitions for that. There were no city council meetings took place. They just started calling it the Rail Yard District and started raising money. And next thing you know, you got the Rail Yard District. Well, it's the same thing here. So
All right. So
yeah,
that would be phase one to
right.
get the naming of this district, the Blossom Ridge, correct?
Yeah, right. It's Blossom Ridge Business District is what it would be.
All right, so that's the thing. Do you have a board of directors that you're looking at? You said you had an initial meeting on Dunn Avenue about this a certain year. So do you have a board of directors that's already meeting with you on this to get that phase one?
Yeah. What I did was we just hired a consulting firm, and we're in the process right now of putting all of the basically, I've been operating as a pretty small nonprofit. You know, my focus has been early childhood music education and entrepreneurial awareness, that kind of thing. But I've been doing what I could do, Richard Cuff and my wife Miriam, of course, and with our own funding. And we probably funded privately about $60,000 out of my pocket has gone into funding various initiatives. And I just last year donated $10,000 to the Northside Business Leaders. So I've been doing stuff as an entrepreneur, philanthropist, if you will. God has blessed me tremendously. So I've been able to do small things, but I just knew that I could not continue to do it under the radar without people knowing what I was doing. I love the fact that nobody knew that, I was wealthy in a sense, solidly middle class, if you will. I love that. It allowed me to move around the community and feel like I was a part of this community. And I don't want to stay in a gated community. I don't like that idea. I like the idea of being over here on the north side. So those dollars it's going to take dollars, but I knew that I had to step my game up a little bit. I could no longer be this small nonprofit. So I figured I would, invest in a really good consultant, put the money in so that we can start raising those nonprofit dollars to the level of $5 and $10 million like a Jacksonville Symphony. And that's the approach that we're taking.
Let's recap again. The Blossom Ridge Business District. What is your single goal? Or name three goals you have.
Sure.
For this Blossom Ridge Business District, so we can understand exactly what you're talking about again.
Okay. First of all, the very first reason is to distinguish this community from the north side. No problem with the north side, but Fred, you hear the 6 o'clock news, breaking news from the north side. What is it going to be? Right? Every time, breaking news from the north side, breaking news. So I would tell people, they say, where do you live? And I'd say, on the north side. Oh, the north side. And then I started saying, I live out near the airport. Oh, on the north side. And no matter what I tried to do, it always led back to the north side. So the first thing was to rebrand this area, and that's what we did. So first thing, rebranded as Blossom Ridge area. The second thing is to get it officially recognized as the Blossom Ridge Business District. The third thing is really not trying to swing for the fence, or like in golf, try to peel the skin off the ball. I'm not trying to go for everything on this one, go for broke. What I want to do in the third area is to attract wealth to this community, because unfortunately, the development over the last couple of years built these houses that are little shotgun houses, basically the same kind of houses that they had in La Villa when I first moved here, and they were falling apart. You can look straight through the front door all the way through to the back door. There's houses like that all over here in this area, and that's because there was no real urban planning and nobody speaking up. So they let the developers build houses on top of houses. What I'd like to do is to begin to see there are a lot of old houses and a lot of land here, and I think that there millionaires, Black wealthy millionaires that would be attracted to this area to come and build here. And so we can sort of begin to attract successful businessmen and turn this area more into the kind of area where wealthy people come to retire. And I think that if I can do that, I plan on retiring here. This is my forever house. I'm gonna be here for a minute, and I hope that in the grand scheme of things, I can have people who say, you know what, I want to move to Blossom Ridge. I want to bring my business to Blossom Ridge. My company is on the south side, but I live in Blossom Ridge. That's what I'm hoping to get.
And the ultimate goal here would be to establish your own metropolitan area, your own city.
That's
Blossom
exactly
Ridge. It's the same as the beaches in Baldwin.
Exactly. The template is already there. I mean, if you look at Jacksonville Beach, you look at Baldwin, whatever they are doing to be able to operate as their own separate city and at the same time vote in our elections, we should be able to do the same thing here by taking Blossom Ridge and having our own identity.
What's your timetable for at least establishing the business district, Blossom Ridge?
18 months.
And your timeline for establishing the break from consolidated government for
5 years.
5 years.
Yes.
All right. Well, I guess you'll still be healthy and happy enough to see that through. Contact. How do folks get information about this? How do they contact you if they want to get on board or simply want to get more information about it? What's the contact?
info@ctimarketing.com, or you can email me, my name, richard.cuff @ctimarketing. That's my personal email. And I'll give my cell as well, 904-386-9079. That's the number to reach me.
All right. That's pretty bold. The Blossom Ridge Business District, and ultimately the city of Blossom Ridge. Richard Cuff is spearheading this effort. It's his idea. We're going to keep tabs on this. It sounds interesting, and it looks like you've got quite a political staircase to climb. But if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be you.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate that, Fred. Thank you, man. Thank you much for the support throughout the years.
All right. Thank you, Richard, for joining us today. Good luck. We'll be talking again soon in a few months.